In today's episode, the Rover 800. Hello and welcome back to Quartzlight. Now if you're new to Quartzlight, Quartzlight is a car brochure channel looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, looking at car brochures like this one. So we're going to start a new series looking at this particular Rover brochure dated August 1989. It starts the wrong way, interestingly, so the first model up is the flagship Rover 800. So here is today's brochure, nice front cover, but you can certainly see straight away at this time, we're just now the Rover Group, so they're renaming to Rover Group. So in 1986, Graham Day took the helm as chairman and CEO, and the third joint Rover Honda vehicle, which we can see here and which we're going to be looking at today, the Rover 800 series, which was launched and replaced the 10-year-old Rover SD1. Around the same time, BL changed its name to the Rover Group. So everything is Rover, which we'll have a look at in a moment. But like I say, we're going to concentrate on the Rover 800 because, interestingly, this brochure runs the wrong way around. Most brochures we start small and go big. Here we're jumping straight into the flagship, and in fact on the front cover we can see the Rover Vitesse, the fastback Rover. Initially it just came as a saloon, but we can see saloons and the liftbacks in this brochure because the liftbacks appeared around about 1988, and this is your flagship liftback, the sporty Vitesse. Anyway, let's open the brochure up. So we then turn to the first page and we get a little bit of a contents page. I can't think what I was saying for a minute. A bit of a contents page there for what we're going to see in this brochure. You can see it's the wrong way around, but we can certainly also see the heading for Rover for all of them. So we're starting with the Rover 800, today's episode. Then we're going to have a look at the Rover 200, Montego, Maestro, Metro, Mini. Yeah, they're still all there, but the Austin name has now been dropped from the Metro, Maestro, Montego, etc. By this time, around about 1988, remember this brochure is 1989, signaling the end of the historic Austin mark, in what was generally thought to be a push to focus on a more prestigious and, of course, potentially more profitable Rover badge. I always thought that was a little bit of a strange idea, really, because obviously, the Rover name was seen as being, luxury cars back in the 70s, but really all it is more and more watering down that prestigious Rover name, isn't it? I mean, when we look back at things like the Triumph Acclaim, that then was replaced with something with a Rover badge on, and then we got smaller Rovers. And now we're getting Montegos, Maestros and Metros all losing that Austin name as well. And I never really thought that the Rover name was ever seen as being like... Did we ever think of Rover as being a reliable vehicle, a reliable badge? Probably not since like the 50s and 60s, really, if we're completely honest. So I always thought that was a little bit of a strange idea to have them all under that Rover badge. Maybe it was a good idea, I don't know. But for me personally, I always thought watering down a badge, really, you lose that prestige, surely. Anyway, I don't want to waffle too much about that. Let's move straight to the Rover 800 range. So the range starts here. So the fact that we're actually starting with the flagship model first doesn't mean we're like starting with the Vitesse. We're kind of like still starting with the lower spec Rover 800s and moving up. Although we are starting with the liftback version or fastback version. I've always preferred the term fastback. I think they are using the word fastback for these. But yeah, it was nice to see that fastback coming. I always thought they looked a little bit more modern in many ways, being a liftback on these big cars. And I always liked the design when they came out with the liftback, although That doesn't mean I didn't like the saloon as well. I just in general liked these generation of Rovers, I must admit. So the first page is starting off looking at a few models. So it says the 820, the 820e and the 820i. Now I'm not going to read every word in this Rover 800 brochure because it gets very wordy. I'll certainly read this section, but a lot of the times it's kind of like repeating itself further on. So first of all, it is looking at the fastbacks. We'll have a look at the text, we'll come back to the images, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about it. So these are the models it's kind of trying to introduce: the 820, the 820e, 820i, the lower spec versions. The interesting one for me is the 820, a super basic model, just actually using an 8-valve engine and a carburetor, so non-injected versions. And this is just for the fastback. We don't have that base engine on the saloon, interestingly. So almost like they're saying this hatchback, fastback, liftback, whatever you want to call it, this is almost seen as being a lower than the saloon. Maybe the saloon was seen as a more executive vehicle, I'm not sure, even though I always quite like the fastback. So yeah, interesting at this time, 1989, selling this basic non-injected version. I'm not sure who that was really aimed at. Maybe the company car buyer, maybe there was some kind of like incentives there to buy that, I don't know. But anyway, let's have a look at the text. It tells us a choice of 3 superb Rovers, each one with a different character, determined by its Rover design power unit, all sharing the same high levels of appointment. The Rover 820 fastback is powered by a classic 2-litre 4-cylinder engine developing 100 PS, highly refined and eager with a muscular torque output, rewarding to drive with a smooth 5-speed gearbox. A step up in power gives you the M16E 16-valve DOHC engine of the Rover 820e fastback. Fueled by a single-point fuel injection system and developing 120 PS, it is responsive and sporting. Top speed is 120, where the law permits. Choose the 820i fastback, and you have an exceptionally powerful 2-litre engine at your command, fueled by an advanced multi-point injection system. The 16-valve DOHC M16i engine develops a maximum of 140 PS. The Rover 820i can comfortably achieve 127 miles per hour where permissible. Acceleration at full power sees 60 come up in only 9.2 seconds. But whichever of these fastbacks you choose, you're at the wheel of a well-balanced and controlled performance car with fully independent suspension and responsive power-assisted steering. You'll also enjoy the same distinctive Rover luxuries: the adjustable steering wheel, for example, and the height and lumbar support adjustment for the driver's seat. Interior, I always quite like the actual overall design of the Rover interiors, I must admit. This particular one would be the 820e interior. It also gives us a look at the 820e badging. And then the main picture it's telling us is the base model, the 820, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So before we get to that main image, it does go on for a little bit more, telling us traditional handcrafted burr walnut in the fascia, the superbly shaped seats with soft velvet facings. Other refinements include a screen glass sunroof and convenience of central door locking and electric front windows. Not to mention a really excellent 8-speaker stereo system. Among the practicalities in the flexible and roomy luggage accommodation, ideal for those who need the extra space for business, sport or outdoor pursuits. Although even business trips are pure pleasure when you're at the wheel of the Rover 800 fastback. So yes, in essence just typical brochure waffle, but there is a look at the base model and actually it does look really nice, doesn't it, considering this is the base model. We've got these little red inserts, which in the world of Ford this would mean the fast version, but it isn't. It's the most basic vehicle that there is, just the 820 without any other indications that this is a carburettor engined model. Nice to see the little colour coordinated mirrors, and actually the range, the equipment levels were quite nice even on the base models. And then for the saloon model, you can kind of have the equivalent trim levels, although there isn't that basic 820 rather than usually. Just two models then, the 820e and the 820i, start the range for the saloon. I'm not going to read all this text this time because really it's majority of it is just repeating what it was talking about on our other page. So let's look at the images. So the interior picture is generally the same sort of thing, but just from a slightly different angle. But again, I do quite like, a bit plasticky, yeah, I agree. But I do generally quite like the Rover 800's interior, and that little bit of burr walnut seems like an appropriate thing to throw in there for a Rover badged vehicle. The main picture now then is going to be the 820e with apparently optional rear head restraints. And there is the saloon model. Which model did you prefer? I actually quite like them both. I think maybe because the fastback one came later, maybe I saw that as looking a little bit more sporty, but you know, I would have been quite happy with either model, I must admit. But let's see how the range goes up. So moving up the range, and then again we'll look at the fastback before we look at the saloon. So moving up the range meant moving up to an 820 SE, an 820 SI, and even a larger engine 827 SI. So obviously more money meant more equipment, and you know, particularly if you went for the 827 SI, more performance too. You'll notice that these models, like the fastbacks, have that sort of red insert on the bumper, so maybe they were going for a more sporty look, although interestingly then when you get to the proper sporty model, the Vitesse, it doesn't have those red inserts in the bumpers. Anyway, let's have a look how it describes these higher spec models. It tells us at the heart of the Rover 800 Fastback series are three exciting performance cars sharing the S standards of luxury. Each model takes its distinctive identity from its engine. The Rover 820 SE is powered by the 120 PS 16-valve M16E engine, designed to give performance, or powerful performance, coupled with refinement and efficiency. With a single point fuel injection system, the 820 SE gives a delightfully smooth and eager response. A sporty 5-speed manual gearbox is standard, and automatic transmission is available as an extra cost option. Eager acceleration is complemented by sure-footed handling with fully independent suspension and disc brakes all round, ventilated at the front. The power-assisted steering has been engineered to give plenty of feedback at speed, as well as effortless manoeuvring in town traffic. Drive the Rover 820 SI and you can't fail to be aware that this car was designed with the emphasis strongly on high performance. With full multi-point electronic fuel injection system, the 16-valve M16i engine develops a maximum of 140 PS. The result is excellent acceleration with 0 to 60 times of just 9.2 seconds, top speed 127. Combined with the poise and agility characteristics of the Rover marque, the result is a thoroughbred performance car, which is a rare pleasure to drive. With the Rover 827 SI Fastback come the performance and refinement of the 24-valve V6 engine. An impressive maximum of 177 PS at your disposal, but it is wonderfully civilised, flexible, controlled and smooth, and ideally suited to the electronic automatic transmission, with its choice of sports or cruising modes. So pictures this time appears to be the 820 SE. Nice look inside there. Do like the lighter coloured interior to offset all that black, I must admit. This looks like it's also got the optional auto transmission for the 820 SE. A look at the rear end of the Rover 820 SE, like I say, red inserts on these models. We can see that rear wash pipe system as well. Not the best picture because it's only a small image and it looks like it's in motion. And then another look on the inside. As we can see, all that burr walnut, I think, really suits the car overall. The seats do look quite supportive as well. Looks like we also get this little tiny image showing the 820 SE badging. And when I turn over, we get some nice pictures of the 827. So the 827 SI, we can still, it's not particularly high spec, we're still wearing wheel trims. We can actually see that this has got headlamp wash, but that would have been an optional extra even on the 827 SI. The interior of the 827 SI. And then I just pull my camera back a little bit and we can certainly see there is more text on these particular models. So let's have a look at least some of that. Where it's talking more about that 827 SI. It says the cruising mode is the equivalent of drive, waffling you along in effortless comfort. Choose the sports mode and the gearbox changes up later and kicks down sooner, giving truly exhilarating performance. Top speed 134 miles per hour. And we've got a 0 to 60 time now of 8.7 seconds, which is actually quite respectable for the time, I think. All with the same unruffled ease and refinement. He goes on to tell us Rover engineering ensures that you can enjoy the thrilling potential to the full. The power assisted steering is speed proportional, giving a nicely weighted feel on the open road. Among the extra cost options are alloy wheels, sport suspension, only on the SI models, and the latest generation Bosch ABS anti-lock braking system, which you kind of feel should have been standard. However, it is not just in their exhilarating performance and handling that these cars differ from others in the executive class. You're aware of the Rover pedigree long before you put them through their paces. They command attention at the first glance with their wide 15-inch wheels shod with VR rated tyres, attractive wheel trims and special coach line. Inside, every detail is satisfying to the most discerning eye. The fine quality chalk stripe velvet seat facings are complemented by the beauty of handcrafted burr walnut veneer set into the doors and fascia. There are so many small but welcome touches, such as the front reading lamps, the illuminated footwells and the comfort of rear headrests. You'll appreciate the way the music system, with Dolby and separate bass and treble controls among other features, brings out the very best in your tape cassettes. And the way that routine tasks are all under fingertip control. Infrared door locking lets you open or secure the doors from a distance. The touch of a button opens the power operated sunroof and electric windows are fitted front and rear. Luxury which perfectly complements the pleasure of driving these fine sporting Rover fastbacks. So same story again with the saloons, the 820 SE, 820 SI and 827 SI in saloon car form. The text really is just repeating what we've already looked at, so we'll look at the images starting up here. So looking at the rear, this looks like it's the SI by the looks of it, although it's wearing those optional alloy wheels. This is the 820 SE interior. And then this final image of the 827 SI saloon, again with the optional alloy wheels, which I kind of feel it needed. And then we get a model that actually isn't available as a fastback. This saloon 827 SLI. Let's see how this is described. It says the Rover 827 SLI combines V6 performance with the craftsmanship and luxury for which Rover marque is famous. The interior is rich with wood veneer, carefully selected from the finest burr walnut grain and set into the driver's console, fascia and doors. The seats are faced in soft but durable diagonal velvet. A notable luxury is the electrically operated driver's seat, giving the full range of adjustment, including the height and lumbar support, at the touch of a switch. The multi-function trip computer has time, date and stopwatch facilities and monitors fuel consumption. There is also a sophisticated vehicle map which provides warnings on a wide range of conditions, including brake light failure, door or boot open, low washer fluid level and low outside temperature. Special attention has been paid to the comfort of passengers with fully adjustable rear head restraints and individual rear reading lamps. In city streets or on the open road, the 827 SLI is pure pleasure to drive. The 2.7 litre 177 PS 24 valve V6 engine barely hints at the power in reserve and responds smoothly through the electronic automatic transmission. The fully independent suspension has self-levelling units at the rear, handling a full complement of passengers and luggage with a poised assurance and smooth, pliant ride. So this is our Rover 800 827 SLI saloon, and certainly down here we can start seeing some differences with this sort of like a vehicle map type display. Looks like we get a tiny image, or it's a little bit blurry, it's so small, of the window switches. This is how the 827 SLI is badged. And then a look at the model itself. Unfortunately the front end falls heavily under the crease, but surprisingly we can still see we're still wearing wheel trims, although we have a bit of a pinstripe going down the full length of the car. So moving back to these fastbacks, we've now got a model which is just the fastback, the Vitesse, or your top of the range model of fastback essentially. It tells us the name of Vitesse has its own tradition of Rover power honed and developed to the ultimate in sporting controlled performance. The heart of the Rover Vitesse is a 177 PS 2.7 litre V6 engine. The all aluminium 24 valve unit gives exceptional power response across the full rev range. Driven through its 5-speed manual gearbox, Rover performance reaches its peak. Acceleration through the gears to 60 takes a mere 7.6 seconds, and the Vitesse can go racing on to a top speed of 140. However, the power is delivered with impressive refinement, and it is combined with sure-footed agility. The rear spoiler of the Vitesse, stylishly keyed to the body colour, enhances both aerodynamics and sleek looks. Sport suspension gives substantial increased roll stiffness, particularly at the rear. Uprated gas pressurised dampers also are fitted for extra efficiency. Ultra low profile tyres and sports lightweight alloy wheels are specified as standard, along with Bosch ABS. Steering response is crisp and precise with speed proportional power steering. So there we go, a little bit of a side look at the Vitesse. Again, unfortunately the front end is highly under that crease, but I think we can safely say it is the best looking, for me anyway, of these fastback Rover 800s. Nice little rear spoiler at the back there, alloy wheels really suit it. Look at the interior, planking plates have all magically disappeared. Of course we get a second page to the Vitesse, so let's just finish off reading, then we'll come back to these images. So it goes on to tell us the driving environment of the Rover Vitesse is everything you could wish. Traditional burr walnut in fascia, doors and console is complemented by the stylish lightning and velvet seat trim. For those who desire still finer luxury, ruched leather seat facings are now optional, in conjunction with a fully power-operated driver's seat. The in-car entertainment system features such refinements as Dolby noise reduction and music search, although it may find itself in somewhat unfair competition with the sheer sporting entertainment of driving the flagship of Rover's fastbacks. So there we have a little bit of a look at the rear of the Vitesse, and then a little bit of a look at the interior of the wonderful Vitesse. Obviously this one's been optioned with those leather seats. So if the fastback was going for more of that sporty characteristics, particularly with things like the Vitesse not offered on the saloon, we get something called the Sterling, because the saloon was going for more of a luxury feel rather than a sporty feel. Although essentially the same thing. We'll have a look at the text. We'll come back to these images of the Sterling flagship model of the saloon range. The Sterling is the finest expression of Rover luxury, a car for those who deserve excellence in everything. From the outside, this prestigious saloon can be distinguished by tasteful two-tone coachwork, whilst sports alloy wheels hint at potency of the 2.7 litre 24-valve V6 engine. In conjunction with the large disc brakes fitted front and rear, an advanced Bosch ABS system is specified. The fully independent suspension has the addition of self-levelling rear units, maintaining the high standards of ride and road holding even when fully loaded. An anti-theft alarm is also a part of Rover Sterling's impressive specification. Inside, the most discerning driver will approve of the Sterling's craftsman-built luxury. The seats are faced in soft, ruched Connolly leather, and the natural beauty of burr walnut veneer graces the doors, driver's console and fascia. Deep pile footwell rugs provide further comfort for passengers. So look at the inside. This tiny image looks like it's showing the controls for the seats, the Sterling's high-spec interior, and the car itself, again unfortunately heavily folded into that crease on the front end, but certainly gives you a nice look at the vehicle itself. Lovely alloy wheels, I think, on these. I do approve of that two colour look. It certainly makes it look a bit different towards the rest of the range. And then it concludes with the rest of the text for the Sterling, and probably what is my favourite image in the brochure. But let's just read the text first. It tells us the Sterling interior remains inviting in all extremes of heat and cold, with an electronically controlled air conditioning system giving precise control of temperature, whilst on the chilliest mornings the heated driver's seat provides a warm welcome. Once the driver has settled comfortably at the leather trimmed steering wheel and positioned the electronically controlled seat and door mirrors to suit, he can rest assured that the Rover Sterling will remember every small adjustment. A built-in microprocessor makes a note of the driving position, recalling it at a touch of a button if it has been changed. Passengers too have their own special luxuries, with full electronic adjustment for the front passenger seat and electronic control of the reclining rear seats. With the electronic auto transmission giving a choice of driving styles, the Rover Sterling can be driven either as an accomplished sporting saloon or as a relaxed grand tourer, with cruise control letting the long distance motorway miles slip by in a quiet, relaxing comfort. There is also now the choice of a catalytic exhaust system, optional at extra cost. A peep at the wonderful leather seats. But yeah, this is certainly my favourite image in the book, and it really shows that the Sterling wasn't just the flagship of the saloon range, it really was the flagship of the entire range of cars. Certainly looks something special. We've got that headlamp wash on there, those lovely and interesting alloy wheels which really suit it, that two-tone colour. Looks like we've got a bit of a sunroof on there, but it certainly looks a bit special and doesn't really look that out of place coming in out of this mansion type setting, to be honest. And then it ends by showing us some unusual sort of like styling optional accessories, I guess. First showing the Vitesse, and then the Sterling with this quite unusual, I guess, Vitesse-like boot spoiler on there, giving it a different look. So there we go. Do you remember these big Rover 800s from the time? Did you own one? Please do jot in the comments your feelings and opinions and memories of these big cars. But overall, thank you so much for watching this brochure review. Next week we'll look at the Rover 200, but we'll end, as we always do, by saying, if you've not done already, please do consider subscribing. It really keeps you in touch with the channel. Lots and lots of videos out there for you, and if you click the little bell, it'll actually tell you when another episode has been released. Like I said, next week we'll look at the Rover's 200, but we're doing at least 3 episodes a week of various different makes and models. You can now also become a member, and thank you to all those who have become a member. Membership is a small fee each month, but it really does help the channel, and that's for people who really want to support the channel and keep us going. I'll add a couple of boxes. One will be for this brochure itself, but obviously if we're watching it as soon as this episode comes out, it'll only have this episode itself, but eventually it'll have the entire brochure there, and then I'll pop another random brochure episode up here. But thank you so much for watching today. Please do indeed take care. We'll see you very soon. All the best and goodbye.